Hey guys, welcome to the Good Stuff Podcast. I'm Derek.
And I'm Ashley. Both raised in Marysville, Ohio, we decided to stay here and raise a family and start 2 small businesses because we absolutely love our community.
We just want to take some time to celebrate the good people, places, and things here in our community that we love and share some of that good stuff with you.
So, enjoy the good stuff. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we are back with another episode of the Good Stuff Podcast. And today we are super excited to talk to Miss Shawnna Sue, who wears lots and lots of hats in our community and brings a lot of good, both personally and professionally, to the community, to our world. So thank you for being here.
Do you like that I'm just sitting here like nodding, like I'm not even going to say anything?
I do bring
so
good.
many hats. I bring all the hats.
Maybe you
Yes.
should take some off.
No. I like to add more hats. Right? When the going gets tough, what do? We pick up more tasks.
Yeah, nobody
Awkward silence,
nobody
right?
knows that more than anybody who's worked in the healthcare industry in the last 2 years.
Oh my God. And
Right?
do you know I was thinking in the car on the way over? 2 years.
2 years. I know. Last weekend right around now. This weekend.
Right around now, because
Right
it was
around
the
now.
Arnold. That was the big.
That's right. That
when
was
they
the start.
canceled the Arnold, and that's when all of my counterparts at the health department, we all went. We had a collective poop. Like this is gonna go somewhere. We don't know where it's gonna go, but
Yeah.
it's going somewhere.
Something is
What
happening.
was the version of, I remember 2 weeks at home with nothing to do. I'm just going to hang out at home. I don't have to deal with people.
I
for
know.
2
Derek
weeks.
was actually sort of
This
excited
sounds
about that
wonderful.
first 2 weeks. Me,
And then 2 years later.
me, not so much.
So in public health, that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Right?
There was
Right?
no chill at home.
There was
like,
zero chill at home.
might as
There
well sell
was-
your house. We don't see our home.
And I'm social media, so it became a 24/7 gig.
Sure.
Right? Trying to sort out like what's true, what's not, what really needs responded to, what is just we're gonna let it fly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a completely different experience than the rest of the world.
Right,
Yeah.
but was there a 2 week, this will be short term, or did you guys know up front, this is going to be.
This is not going to be a short-term thing.
I think we kind of knew it wasn't going to be short term. I think we were thinking 6 months-ish, start to finish. Nobody anticipated 2 years,
Yeah.
but I think we knew it was going to be more than just 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And again, when they canceled the Arnold 2 years ago, again, we all looked around at each other and went,
Oh, that means something.
this is something huge because millions of dollars lost,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, so back up for a second. Introduce yourself, personally, professionally, all of that. Tell us about your hats.
So what I love is when people are like, so what do you do? And my standard answer is all the things, right?
Yeah.
So Shawnna Sue, a lot of people know me from Crooked Door Studio. We'll talk
Yes.
about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I also work at the Union County Health Department.
Yep.
Made it through the pandemic. Woo woo. I shouldn't say that because I don't think we're officially done.
Actually, for a moment, I was like, it feels so good to hear somebody from the health department say that. And then I knew it was going to be like, well, made it this far.
Right,
through the pandemic.
let's bring that back a little because we're still all very superstitious.
Yeah.
We're like, if there's
Yeah.
one more variant,
Yes, sure.
no.
Yeah.
But our emergency preparedness guy, whom I absolutely adore, he's like, March, we're done in March. I'm like, really? Are we? And he said, done or not, we're done in
We're done.
March. Okay, fair.
I like that. Thoughts become things.
That's fair, right?
Thoughts become things.
Very, very true. Very true. But with the vaccine and that we're all getting back to normal.
Ish.
Yesterday, Columbus ended their mask mandate, right?
They did.
Indoors.
Yep. They ended
Big
the mask
deal.
mandate. It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good signs.
very exciting. All good signs. So that's part of what I do, social media for the health department. And then I also contract social media for a couple other agencies in Marysville, in Union County. But the studio is my passion.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. So, okay, health department. We'll talk about that for a second, which we started touching on 2 years later. Ups, downs, highs, lows, progress forward, steps back,
Right.
progress forward, all of that. We
Right.
know that, we've all heard all the bad, and lots of us have experienced some of that
Right.
bad. But we've also heard a lot of stories of people coming together, people coming out of the woodworks to offer help.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you're full of those
Yep,
stories.
absolutely. So when I was thinking about today and what we could talk about in regard to public health in the last 2 years, which like there's a lot we could talk about.
Sure.
When the pandemic first started, let's talk about prior to March of 2020, right? What goes on at the health department, right? People are like, well, that's where you go to get either your birth certificate or you go to get vaccines, right? You go to have your kids vaccinated.
Sure. Or in real estate, you deal with soil and
septic
and all that kind of stuff.
Improving land. Sure. Absolutely. So there's this whole other part of the health department that nobody really knows about, health promotion.
Sure.
And that's where we do a lot of community building.
Sure.
A lot of partner building. As soon as the pandemic started, we started reaching out to those partners. So I don't want to name names because I'll forget so many people that were instrumental. But for example, we reached out to Marysville PD, right? Reached out to the Marysville Division of Police, and they were there in a heartbeat. They came and camped out in our office and helped us with public information messaging, helped us reaching out, like the sheriff's office helped us reach out to senior populations.
Sure.
Things that we just couldn't do.
Sure.
Because we're a small agency, right?
Sure.
I think we have 35 employees and not all full time.
Sure.
So that was amazing to be able to reach out to our partners that we've had conversations with and we've all been at meetings together, but to have them drop everything they were doing and come to our aid.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Well, I think it shows to the investment that you've made over the years, that the health department has made over the years. We've talked about this in a previous podcast of the idea that you have to make deposits into the bank so many times before you can ask for a withdrawal. And so it's clear that that's what has happened, right?
So
because
true. Yeah.
I think we saw that health departments aren't funded for pandemics, right?
Very much.
Because
very,
thank
very much.
God they don't happen very often.
Right.
But thankfully, the health department, our local health department, had been making deposits into that community bank for years and years and years, that there were people.
And I know I'm fast forwarding to the studio, but I say all the time at the studio, we live in a community. We are so incredibly fortunate. All we have to do if we need help is ask.
Yes.
People want to help. They genuinely want to help.
Generous community.
Is very generous. And we learn that not with just money, not with anything necessarily tangible, but people are there. What can I do?
Sure.
You need me to come and help you write messaging? I'll be there.
Sure.
You need me to do videos for you to help you get this message across. You need me to go door to door and talk to these seniors to make sure they're safe.
Sure.
These are all things we can do to help you. So amazing community building.
Yeah, I know when every time I went to get vaccinated at the fairgrounds, right?
Oh, yeah, vaccination at the fairgrounds.
It was pouring down rain.
Yeah.
The first two were pouring down rain, and you drive up and here's these cheery, chipper people standing with their umbrellas, and it's like they're drenched and they're like happy to see you. And I'm thinking, I don't know, your heart is amazing.
We started vaccinating in December, Christmas Eve of 2020.
Yeah.
Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve, we were vaccinating. And we're like, really, are we going to have a vaccination clinic on Christmas Eve? Are people going to come out? Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Because we started with first responders and making sure all those frontline workers could get vaccinated first. So then they would be there to help with the effort. And man, it was something. We were freezing. Everyone was so cold, frozen to the ground. But it felt like this big, huge step forward.
Yes. Well, gosh. So now I've been vaccinated 3 times, right?
Right.
And every time, but I particularly remember that first time, there were tears in my eyes. Was just like, we might be able to conquer this.
Make it out the other side.
We might make it out the other side. Yeah. It was like, but I remember the weather was terrible every time. And yet the people that were there running the clinics were, first of all, super efficient. Like, those were amazingly.
Rest assured, should we have another crisis in Union County, we're on it.
Yeah. I really don't want to put that to the test.
No,
I'll
let's
trust
not.
you.
Let's not. But we will mobilize in a hot second.
Yeah.
Right?
Bring back that flu clinic, though. That's good for babies, toddlers.
We
right?
will. We will.
Yeah.
We need to
Yeah.
take a
Oh,
little
I get it.
breather.
Oh my gosh, I get it. I totally get
But
it.
yeah, you're not the only one that says that, right? And
Yeah, but-
that's a good test of our emergency preparedness response.
Yeah, yeah. What else? Any other stories like just pop to your
One
to
of
the top
my
your mind?
favorites, so I worked in the call center quite a bit, and when we first started opening up vaccinations for, it was the oldest members of our population first,
Sure.
right? Once we got through first responders, and we started working on those, 80 plus, 75 plus. A lot of them not tech savvy, right?
Sure.
Having a hard time figuring out, and we had such limited supply of vaccine, right? So people were calling in, waiting on the phone for, an hour. We
Sure.
crashed the phone system a couple times.
Yeah.
There were so many calls, people trying to get in to get their moms, their grandmas, their grandpas, to try to get the most vulnerable in our
Yes.
society vaccinated. That was something else, to be able to talk to those seniors. And something that really sticks out in my mind, that's when I became friends with Pastor Pam.
Yes.
Do you know
she just-
Pastor
she just
Pam?
popped into my head too. Yeah.
I
yeah.
absolutely adore
Pam
her.
Conley.
She did,
Yeah.
Pastor Pam Conley, yeah. She did everything she could to try to make sure that every senior she came in contact with got vaccinated.
Yes. Yes.
She went well above and beyond.
Yeah. I remember her posts.
Yeah.
Hey, if anybody needs help, here's when it's opening. Give me your information. I'll jump
Because
on
our
it and give
seniors
you-
weren't fast enough
Yes. Yeah.
to get information in the system. They were getting timed out and losing their spot.
Yeah.
And Pastor Pam, and on top of that, she would bring us cookies. She would check in.
Yes.
She was an amazing human being. And then I remember when you brought us donuts and
We
cards.
did, yeah. our
That was
kids.
so huge for us. Like
Yeah.
just a spirit lifter, because we were feeling a little rough.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I know a lot of the health departments were the brunt of a lot of, I think, frustration.
It's interesting, isn't it, that we went from hurrah to
Yes.
a lot of anger, a lot
Yeah.
of negativity, and a lot of anger.
It's like when you're a teenager and your mom's like, no, you can't go out at 3:00 in the morning, with a group of friends to you know what I mean?
You
and
can't
you're like,
tell
that's the
me.
smartest choice.
Right.
But like, I'm frustrated at you, Mom, right?
Right.
It's like you guys became the bearer of bad news.
Right.
Regardless of if it was your decision or not. Right.
Right,
It was
right.
like, not my choice. I'm just the messenger.
This is no secret, and a lot of times that we were finding out what was going on statewide, we were finding out during the 2 p.m. press conference at the same time everybody else across the state was finding out.
You've got to figure out, what does it mean?
Right.
What does it mean in my particular situation? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, as a small business owner, I'll say every time I called with questions about what am I allowed to do, what am I not allowed to do, particularly in those beginning 6 months, I mean, I never spoke to anybody that was frustrated or seemed frustrated
that's
or
good.
seemed
That's good.
upset or bothered or whatever. I mean, everybody was always super pleasant, having conversation, trying to help me navigate how all of that
Before the
looks.
pandemic, we all said, you don't work in public health for the money, right?
Sure.
Especially not local public health.
Sure.
You do it because you love the community that you're in, right? You
Sure.
love the community that you serve. You do it
Yeah.
because you have a call to serve. You have that passion.
Yeah.
Ooh, the pandemic put that to the test, but we're all still there, right?
Yeah.
We love our community. We did it because it was the right thing to do, to take
Sure.
care of our neighbors.
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned a little bit about Crooked Door Studio. So talk a little bit about that, both as a small business owner, but then just as an artist, somebody who gets to experience creativity and joy and, giving people a place to have an outlet where they can be themselves.
Okay, so Crooked Door Studio, I like to tell people that's my retirement job.
Okay.
That happened 25 years too soon.
Okay.
Right? I opened the studio because I wanted some place to play, some place to hang out with like-minded people. I knew in my heart when I opened the studio, it didn't have to make money.
Sure.
It just had to support itself.
Sure.
And that's what it's done, and it's gone above and beyond that. And I'm gonna try really hard not to get weepy, but it's a special place. It really is a special place.
Yeah.
It's welcoming for everyone. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you have money to pay. It's not about that. It's just getting everyone together and creating.
Yeah.
And I think about it because during the pandemic, so I opened the studio in July of 2015.
Okay.
Because I missed my 5-year anniversary. We were going to have a big 5-year open house because of the but because of the pandemic, we missed it. We weren't able to gather. But isn't it funny? I keep losing my train of thought because I'm like, there's so much at the studio, right? There's so much there going on. Help me rephrase. Give me another question.
Yeah. Okay. How about so let's
There's just so much
talk,
there, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about parts of the studio, right? So
Okay.
the first being how you are able to support causes and other organizations through the studio.
So if we circle back to, I opened the studio because I wanted like-minded people to come and play, to come and have some place to hang out and create and just be silly and talk and, right? Knew the studio wouldn't make money. But when the studio got to the point that it was making money, I'm like, well, I have a day job that I love, right? I absolutely adore my day job, even through a pandemic.
Yeah.
I love my day job. But what do we do now, right?
Yeah.
And we go back to the fundamental reason for opening the studio, right?
Yeah.
Was for people to come together and hang out and just be themselves.
Yeah.
And how can we then, I'm getting tangled up again. Isn't that
Well,
awful?
I've seen in a couple ways. I've seen like, okay, you're going to donate supplies.
Right.
So just recently, one of our students had what are the Global Scholars project for school.
Right.
She did kind of like a fun sort of mental health, feel good kind of evening
And she
here.
reached out
And
to
she
see.
reached-
And I said, absolutely, whatever you need, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm to that point. Again, we don't have to make money at the studio. I'm to that point. I can give back.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. So I've seen you do that regularly. You've got that kind of line going. But then the other thing, and I
Isn't it funny? I think that's why I keep getting twisted because I'm like, it's uncomfortable to talk about that kind of stuff, right?
Sure.
Kind of like when you have to go into a job interview and you talk about
brag
yourself.
about yourself.
And
Yeah.
it's just, I don't do it for that. I do it because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
So another way, let me just jump in and say another way that I give back. When I realized the studio was going to be okay on its own, right, and we started making money, I started Crooked for a Cause. And there's a little bit of a misunderstanding about what Crooked for a Cause is. It is not a nonprofit. It's just a name.
Sure.
But it's how I give back to the community. I help nonprofits raise money.
Yes.
So I'll pick a nonprofit. I used to say, we pick a nonprofit because the logo for Crooked for a Cause was my bulldog, Gertrude.
Yes. Yeah.
So I used to say we would pick a cause, Gertrude and I. We'd sit and have a conversation about it. And we'd pick a charity. We'd pick a nonprofit and then do lots of little fundraisers through the year for that nonprofit.
Yeah.
Well, Gertrude, of course, we've done this 5 years now. I think 5 years. We skipped 1 year because of the pandemic.
Sure.
We just had to keep the studio afloat.
Sure.
But the first year we picked the Union County Humane Society.
Yeah.
Gertrude picked.
Gertrude,
Right.
yeah.
She said, yes,
Makes
let's
a lot of sense. Yes.
help the puppies and kitties. Yes. But in the first year, we did lots of little things through the year. We did paint party fundraisers.
Yeah.
We did an artathon where I had 24 artists come in for 24 hours straight and create things.
Super fun.
And at the end of that 24 hours, everything they created, we then auctioned off.
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, I wrote a check to the Humane Society. The studio wrote a check under the name of Crooked for a Cause for $5,000 to the Humane Society.
Yeah.
Right?
That's awesome.
And I think a lot of that, it goes back to little things add up.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't have to do one ginormous thing.
Yeah.
Right? Over a course of a year, it was, $200 from this fundraiser and $50 out of the change jar, and
Sure.
I sold some paintings for a couple $100, right? But that all added up to what a kennel sponsorship for the Humane Society. So,
Yes, which probably for the whole year, right?
Yeah.
Kennel sponsorship. Yeah, because I
Yeah.
think that's a couple $100 a month or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
each
awesome.
year picking that nonprofit, that's been a lot of fun
Yeah.
to be able to give back to different groups.
Yes. Well, and I think when you pose it like that it was a bunch of little things, like that's tangible. Everybody can do something little.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
You don't have to be this master event organizer to put on a 5K or put on a golf outing or something.
Right.
Like, those you're right, those little things add up.
I love dogs,
Yeah.
right? And what
Yes.
can I do to help the ones right here in my community?
Yeah. Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. So I think the other aspect of the studio is just providing an outlet for people,
Absolutely.
or providing a place where people can gather and belong to something, or be kind of in community with other people. And I think throughout the pandemic, and you got creative on how you still manage things through the pandemic.
Oh, the shift.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The shift was huge.
Yeah, but I'm sure in having people in your space or working with people online, I'm sure you've seen kind of transformation happen in the studio with people,
yeah.
or barriers breaking down, or
Yeah.
kind of people feeling relief.
One of my absolute favorite things that happened, it was when I first opened the studio. I have people all different ages come to the studio,
Yeah.
right? And I had an older woman she was retired, she was 70 something, and we were painting, and I was leading step by step through a class, and we were painting, and she got quiet. I mean, she had been talking to people, and she got kind of quiet and inward, and I ended up walking over to her just to kind of like lurk behind her. Not that I lurk in class. I totally
let that scare you off.
I don't lurk. But, making the rounds, we're very informal in class, and I want to make sure everybody's enjoying themselves, and I'm there for whatever questions you have, right? Whatever you need. And I realized she was getting very inward, and I stopped to ask her. I said, is there anything? And she turned and looked at me, and she had tears streaming down her face. And I wrapped myself around her, and I said, because I know no strangers, right?
Yeah.
So I wrapped myself around her, and I removed her from the room. We walked away, and I said, I am so sorry. If you're not enjoying yourself, if you're, whatever's going on, I'll refund your money. Because
Yeah.
we've already said it's not about money, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is that we need to do here, let me help you. And she gave me the biggest hug, and she said, no, you don't understand. In grade school, I was told I'm not creative. So I've lived with that for the past, 60, 65, 70 years of my life. I'm not creative. And I came here today because one of my friends drugged me here. I didn't really want to come, but she didn't want to go by herself. And so I came with her, and I realized how much fun I was having and how much I was enjoying it. And there was a little piece of me that made me sad, grateful, but sad that I lost 70 years of not being creative because I was told I wasn't.
Yeah.
And that I was able to help her with that,
Her see
right?
that.
To bring
Yeah.
that out.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite
For sure. That's
favorite
amazing.
stories. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tell people, I tell people all the time at the studio, when you come to the studio, if you paint whatever it is that you do, when you create, it's not about what you have tangible, what you have physically in your hands on the other side of the class, right?
Yeah.
It's not about that. It's about the process of getting there, that process of creation.
Yeah.
People come in all the time and say, I'm no good at this. I suck at this.
Yeah.
But do you have fun, right?
Yeah.
Does it make you feel something? Because
Sure.
isn't that what art's supposed to do?
Sure.
It's what it's about.
Because I relate everything to Instagram videos, or YouTube,
Right.
or TV, or whatever. There's like a trending audio right now on Instagram that's like, I don't know, it's some stupid song about you have to
Sing it, babe.
I would try if I could remember how the tune goes, but it's basically like you have to suck at something before you're any good.
Yeah,
But anyway, so it's like people encouraging people to try things.
absolutely.
But at
Right.
the same time, I would relate that to mine. Like I made this, not this, but this.
Right.
And so to me, I really enjoy creating things that serve a function and have some usability. And so that can be translated to what you just said of what use does it have for you?
Right.
Does it look good? Does it, I can think of examples of that painting meant this to me. It might be ugly. And so anyway.
It's funny. I love the feeling of paint in a brush. And I know if you're listening to this, you can't see what I'm doing, but it's like this squishy motion with my hand. I love that feeling of paint in a brush. Yeah. There is nothing else that I do that gives me that feeling. Is it a cool painting when I'm done? Maybe not. Do I care? No. Because it felt good when I was doing it, right? Yeah. And those colors. And some days it's all blacks and grays, and that's okay. And some days it's a ridiculous explosion of color and glitter, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I love it. What have you, through the pandemic, other side, we can't really say on the other side of the pandemic.
I'm gonna knock wood like every time we say that. Right.
Yeah. But how have you seen what you're doing in the studio be that much more meaningful now that we're 2 years into this? And for the longest time, people didn't have the ability to come together and connect and do things like that.
Okay, so question me again.
Yeah, so think about pre-pandemic. We know how valuable art is to the human experience, to the collective experience. Pandemic happens, people get sheltered, we're kind of less connected than we have been before, and now we can start coming back. How have you seen, and how have you seen it be so much more valuable or maybe so much more precious?
So let's talk a little bit about what the studio went through, right? Pre-pandemic and then pandemic. So pre-pandemic, we all come together, we hang out, you carry in beverage, food, snacks, whatever you want, and it's just fun, right?
Sure.
We talk and we fling paint and we have a lot of fun. At the end of the night, if you have a cool painting, cool, but it was the experience of creating it together. Well, then when the pandemic happened, we knew we couldn't all be together like that, right? Because no one knew a lot about the virus. We just knew we couldn't gather in spaces. Sure. So I was able to pivot quite quickly, and we took everything virtual. Mm-hmm. So I then created my husband. I adore that man. He made a cabinet for me to put in the back breezeway of the studio with a lock on it, so people would message me for supplies. I would charge, nominal fees for supplies, 50 cents for paint, a couple bucks for canvas, brushes, easels, whatever it is you needed. Put them in the cabinet, give you the lock code, and then every Saturday night, make sure your supplies were picked up before then, and every Saturday night I'd do a Zoom painting. Yeah. And we did that for a year. Did that for a long time. And that would be the year where we didn't have Crooked for a Cause, right? We had to keep the studio afloat. And I never charged for any of those classes, but it was a suggested $10 donation if you have it, if not, right? And some people paid more and some people didn't pay anything, and that's okay. So we did that pivot, and we did that for quite some time. And then we've all started coming back together. And it started out a little weird.
Yeah.
We didn't know how to interact with one another in public.
I know.
Right? The first couple classes, things were really loud and out of control because we had forgotten what it was like to be together. Right? And now we've kind of started to come back to that whole pre-pandemic level where we're talking to one another again. We're getting a little more comfortable. Yeah. But I think, you talk about precious. We haven't talked much about being a small business owner, a female small business owner. Yeah. I could have lost the studio easy. Oh, for sure. So many businesses went under during the pandemic, right? The businesses that couldn't or weren't able to shift as quickly as we did went under. Mm-hmm. And now I'm thinking back to something you said earlier. You put in, right? Yeah. How did you phrase that earlier?
Make a lot of deposits into the bank before you can make a withdrawal.
So unwittingly, I evidently made deposits, right? Deposits in my community, because then when we pivoted and we took everything online, people were paying, a class is $25. People were still paying $25 with little notes that said things like, I know $10 isn't enough. We want to see you through on the other side. We all want to be able to get back together again.
Yeah.
So that was
that's what it's about, man.
Yeah. It was huge.
Yeah. What was that feeling like, your first class back in the studio?
There were tears. There were so many tears.
Yeah.
And I got a little befuddled here earlier talking. Sometimes my train derails a little bit, my thought train. And it was very much like that during the first class.
Yeah.
And it was funny because nobody even cared what I was saying at that point. We were all just sitting there like dopey, just smiling at each other.
Can you believe it?
We're here. We made it. We made it through. Again, knock wood.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I remember that last year at the recital. We had an outdoor recital, so still a little different. Right. This year we're going to be back in a theater. But I remember standing on stage. I was also like 100 months pregnant. So I was, definitely hormonal, and it was 8,000 degrees out. But I remember standing on stage that first time, looking at an audience of people and doing everything I could not to cry. Like, you just try. It was just such a moment of like, there are so many things I never even considered could be taken away that quick. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
And just that, man, do we need to pause and be thankful for all of that.
And I don't know how many times during the Zoom classes, our Saturday night virtual Zoom classes, I'd get a little weepy and go, I know we're not in the studio. We're not physically there right now, but it's still there waiting for us.
Yes.
Because of you.
Because of you,
Right?
Yes.
You all are here helping me save this precious place.
Yes. Yeah. Amazing. Well, one of the things we always like to end with is a challenge to people who are listening. So we've done things in the past like do something for someone in which you can't get paid. Or when we talked to the Encore crew, it was go consume art. Do something that has something to do with art, right?
I love that.
Or last week when we were talking to Susan, it was who in your past has really influenced you? Just give them a call and tell them thanks, or write them a letter and tell them thanks. You know, like so. What would your challenge be?
So I've been thinking a lot about this, right? And I think it makes so much more sense now that we're ending our conversation here, right? As we're coming out on the other side. Yeah. Again, knock wood one more time, right? As we're coming out on the other side and we're starting to ditch those masks and we're starting to see each other again. Isn't it interesting when we all put those masks on, we averted eye contact. We didn't look at one another, right? You went to the grocery store and you wanted to get in and get back out.
Sure.
Right? But now we're coming back to being more social again. And I want to encourage everyone to look at a stranger and smile. It's that simple, right?
Yeah.
Make eye contact and smile, because I go to the store, you go uptown, you go wherever, and you see people still are a little hesitant, not averting eye contact, not looking at one another.
Yeah.
And for my friends that know me really well, they know I'm an introvert. I don't know who Shawnna Sue is at Crooked Door Studio. She's a different person.
But the glitter.
It is, oh my God, it's all about the glitter. But I really am an introverted person. So if I can do it, if I can go to the grocery store and look you straight in the eye and say, how are you today?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You don't even have to say anything. You can smile.
Yep.
Just like make that genuine human contact.
Yeah.
Because we've missed that this past 2 years. We really have. And we need it.
Yes, for sure. That's a super good one. See people.
See them.
Our daughter's like, like every other person in the world right now is just all about the new Disney movie Encanto.
Oh, so
and
good.
At the very end, when Dolores says, I see, or what's his name? At the very, very end. Anyway, he says, Dolores, I see you. And she says, I hear you. Yeah. It's like, just strip it away.
Yeah.
I see you.
Yes.
Yeah. Super good. Good. Shawnna, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
For being here. We appreciate you, and thank you for continuing to do good, to lift the community up, to, be generous.
You just made it weird again. Again, it's like talking. It's like talking about yourself in a job interview.
Yes. Well,
But thank
we
you.
appreciate
Thanks.
you. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me here today. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys, for listening. As always, are you going to give the closer?
Nope. Go.
Do it. Okay. If you know of somebody who's doing good stuff that we should talk to, let us know. If you see something good, share it. Keep listening. Send your ideas and go make eye contact with a stranger. Let them know that they are seen. Until next week, go do good.